From the News Channel 5 Network, this is Inside Politics.
Hello, everyone. I'm News Channel 5's political analyst, Pat Nolan. Welcome to Inside Politics. Our guest today is 7th District Republican Congressman Marsha Blackburn. Congressman, thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you.
There's so much to talk to you about today. Let's begin with another unfortunate mass shooting, and the latest one out in California. Events like these seem to be becoming more and more frequent and continue to be quite random. Yet our leadership in Washington and other places don't quite seem to know what to do. They all have their talking points and their ideas, but they kind of talk past each other. What should we be? Isn't there some common ground we can all come together?
Well,
some things we can do?
I think there are two different components that are here to consider and to look at. First of all, the San Bernardino shooting is going to be more in line with what happened in Chattanooga or Boston with the bombers and then the Chechen rebels. You could go back to that. But, Pat, here's the thing. These are radicals, and they're radical Islamic extremists. You are seeing some of this.
Do you think that'll be the case in California?
It is pointing that way. The house was full of bomb-making equipment. It had been booby-trapped. There are pipe bombs that they have found. The information that is coming from the neighbors, the communications and components, I think you're going to see that radicalization that is there.
One of the questions that comes from that is, from what I've heard so far, all the equipment that these people had was all obtained legally. If it's so easy to obtain these kind of things and you're a potential terrorist, don't we need to look at the availability of those things, making it quite that
I think we also need to look at who is coming in, and that's one of the reasons
These weren't refugees that came in. I mean, they were from those countries.
That's right. One of them, the wife, came in on the visa waiver program. We're going to pass a bill next week that will deal with the visa waiver program, and it's time that we did that.
And it sounds like the administration may even be on board about the visas.
That's exactly right. You also have the issue with the refugees, and some have been in the refugee programs. The Zarnoff brothers were in the refugee program. We need to make certain that this Office of Refugee Resettlement, Senator Sessions and I have been on this now since August of 2014. They are not fulfilling their obligation to Congress. They are not giving their reports. They have more than doubled the money that they are asking for. They deal with not only the illegal aliens, but also the refugees. There is not a proper vetting process in place. That needs to be halted until we figure that out.
You issued a statement yesterday, in the last few days, that basically said that, I think you used the word 15 potential terrorists have gotten through this program.
I think we have 12.
12 so far,
yes,
and the program has claimed they don't have any at this. They haven't had any come through at this point.
That's exactly right. And so what we are doing is saying, look, you're not reporting to Congress. You're asking for more money. Let's stop this. Stop it until we can get our arms around this and know who is coming into our country, know how long they're going to be here, and know when they're going to leave. It is foolish for us not to secure the southern border when we have anecdotal information in the report from Judicial Watch and other entities of some of these Middle Eastern encampments that are in the northern part of Mexico. We need to stop this. We don't know what is coming over that southern border, and as you're saying, guns, weapons, bomb-making components, there's got to be a change of process.
But apparently a lot of those things that are being done are being bought here. They're not being necessarily smuggled here.
Right, and I think that looking at what is happening, I understood this morning the FBI is going back through some of these transactional records with this couple, this killer couple, but they had clearly planned this. They had destroyed their hard drive. They had destroyed their cell phones. They were using burner phones as they carried this out. So it's important to get that information.
You talked about the two different kinds of events that are occurring. One of them occurred earlier in Colorado that was around a Planned Parenthood organization, one of their facilities. Now, you're chairman of a new select committee that the House has put up that's going to investigate infant lives.
That's right. It's the Select Committee on Infant Lives. On that specific shooting, law enforcement personnel say they still don't have a motive, and they don't know what the motive of the individual was. What they do know is that, like many of the shooters, there is mental illness involved. And Dr. Tim Murphy, who chairs our...
Well, should people buying a gun, he bought these guns legally, should he have to get a screening for mental illness before he's able to buy a gun?
There have got to be, we've been trying to get a mental health bill out of the Energy and Commerce Committee, and Dr. Murphy has led these efforts. And Pat, it is inexcusable that we are not addressing the mental health issue. You can look at all of these shootings, and the common thread is mental illness, and it is imperative that we address the situation. Look at what has happened with psych beds, which Senator Deeds in Virginia, he has worked with us a good bit on this issue. He could not get a psych bed, had tried to get a bed for his son. Couldn't get a bed for his son. And we have fewer psych beds in this country today than we had in 1955.
The shooter in Colorado made some statement related to no more baby parts being able to be sold, which would seem to relate it back to the controversy that came up over Planned Parenthood and these videos. As somebody who's going to be leading a congressional panel that may be touching on this, looking at these videos, do you need to be careful about the language you and your committee members use, that you don't incite these people who may be mentally disturbed and may go off on a tangent based on that?
We have been careful and continue to be.
Well, there's some people who would disagree with that. How do you respond to people who say you've been intemperate about your comments?
I think that they are they're wrong. We've been careful. The resolution, House Resolution 461 that established the committee, says nothing about Planned Parenthood. Our charge is very specific.
What will you look at besides Planned Parenthood?
What we're looking at is the entire abortion services industry and their medical practices, looking at the Born Alive Child Act, looking at the late-term abortion ban, looking at the possibility of any manipulation of abortions, and then we're looking at the fetal tissue procurement organizations and their business practices and business models, and then going back and looking at the relationship between these two. That's our specific charge. So it is the abortion industry at large and the tissue procurement industry at large that we're looking at. We are a fact-finding select committee. We are not a legislating select committee. We will report back to Congress about this time next year, and we'll make recommendations on legislation that needs to take place to close any loopholes that are in existing law that might have been utilized by either the abortion industry, which is prohibited from making any profit on the utilization of fetal tissue. Okay,
let's take a break. Congressman Marsha Blackburn is our guest. She's the chair of that House committee she was just talking about. We'll come back and talk a little bit more about that after this break. Stay with us.